Hi guys, and welcome to today's reading vlog wherein we're going to be attempting to find my first 5-star read of 2026 together. So we'll be reading together over the span of the next week some of my most anticipated books in the hopes of finding my first 5-star read of the year. And so let's just hop right in because I've been waiting so long to do this and it's finally time. So now for context, I actually did do one of these videos sometime in the middle of last year and whatnot, and I remember it being really fun going on this goose chase to find a 5-star read, but it wasn't really the most important significant video I've ever done because it was in the middle of the year, and while I did find a fun 5-star, I feel like looking back, it's always the first and the last of a specific year that you kind of focus on that kind of set the benchmark for a year. So this year I figured we go early, we're starting now, and we're going to try to find my first 5-star of 2026, which already that feels like such an important title looking back, at some point on my whole year of reflection once I do it. But we'll be doing that today in this week's span and whatnot, trying to get through some of my most anticipated books on the TBR and seeing how that pans out. The only difference between this video and that format of the video will be, while that one technically ends when you find a 5-star, this one I'm not going to force it. We'll just see organically if I can get to one in this video, and if I can't, it's still fine because we spent the week together reading some of my most anticipated books in the hopes that we find one, and I'm not going to be sad about it because back in 2024 I actually found my first 5-star read in July, which means if I have to sit and record this from mid-February, I'll just be going for a few months with no posting whatsoever in the background because we'll just be focused on one video, and that doesn't sound like a lot of fun because I want to keep up with the channel anyway. And so this one's just going to be an attempt at it, not too serious. It's all good things, all fun things. Regardless, I'll still be reading a few fun books and hoping that we still find one, because even if it doesn't happen, I just want it to organically take its time for the good things to happen, and otherwise we'll still be getting to a fun bunch of books, which is why here we are. That's what we're doing today. Now I have read 33 books so far this year and not one of them has been a 5-star, which means I definitely do need to switch something up in my reading so I get it right, because that's quite a lot of books for not having found one. And before anyone goes, oh, it's mid-February, how did you read so many? I was finishing the last 30 days of my reading 50 books in 50 days challenge, wherein I'd be reading a single book per day, thanks to which I've already boosted up my number of books. And I also ended up recording a different video wherein I was reading for 24 hours, or attempting to. You can go watch all of them, I'll have them on screen. But thanks to those, I already figured that at this point I should have found a 5-star, because 33 is a big number, but I haven't yet, which means we really have to lock in this week with a few books that I've been really looking forward to, something more impactful than the sort of book I can finish in the span of a day, something I want to take my time with and actually have something kind of hit me harder and more emotionally and have a long-lasting impact. So that's what we're doing today. Now, I did finish recording last week's video that I posted last night. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'll have it on screen. That one I finished reading and recording for it sometime midweek last week, but because I had exams, I didn't really have the time to come record this one early. So I did start the first book for this video on Kindle only in the night time when I didn't really have anything else to read, and I've got a little bit of progress in, but not anything substantial to write home about, which means now I actually want to go lock in back on my Kindle, keep reading and see how it goes, and hope and pray that we actually find some good ones, because this one I've been looking forward to for not so long, but I have high hopes from the way I've been enjoying little bits of it the past few days, because I haven't locked in fully, but now I can because my exams are done. They finished last week, which means I'm going in with an open mind, hoping that this kind of helps us, and we'll just have to see where it goes. But tonight basically my goals are to kind of get through with this book, see if I can finish a decent chunk, and maybe even switch over to the audiobook format at some point, because I have a few files to back up for college and I might want to go paint my nails tonight. So we'll just have to see what I end up doing, but I'll see you guys now directly tomorrow once I have a few updates to give on my first book for the vlog, which like I said I already started. But let's pray and hope that it's going to be a highly rated one at least, if not 5 stars, because wouldn't it be funny if I haven't found a 5-star over the last month and a half, but then when I sit down to record this video the first one is a 5-star? That would be hilarious, but we'll just have to see what happens, and until then I'm gonna go get to my reading now, and I'll update you all once I have things to say. Hi guys, and now welcome to the next day, because I've gone ahead and read and finished out the first book for this video. The video is still gonna keep going because it wasn't 5 stars, but I did go ahead and finish the first book, and so now I've come in to update to catch you up since the last time I came in and spoke. Firstly, I did go ahead and sit down and do all my laptop backups and stuff, but I was listening to a different book during that we'll get to in a little bit once I have more progress on. But I was listening to a separate book. I went ahead, I painted my nails, I did this cute pink color because it's Valentine's week, and can you imagine if we find a 5-star book when it's Valentine's next week. That would be perfect. But I did these, had the best time doing it. I will get to that specific audiobook that I was listening to in a little bit once I'm done speaking about the current segment in the current book. But I went ahead, I painted these out and, you know, finished all my nightly tasks and stuff. And then I went ahead and locked in on Kindle and continued reading the book that I was speaking about because my nails were still wet. I wanted them to dry before I went to bed. And so as I continued reading, number one, I underestimated my reading speed because while I definitely am like a slower reader, I don't know how I like kind of breezed through this. And number two, because I also underestimated how far into this book that I was, because I read most of it, the remaining bit and whatnot, at night time, and then today morning when I woke up there was only a little bit left, so I finished it out and I'm done with this one now. However, in the morning I wasn't able to come in and update sooner about the book, obviously, because we did get like a college workload in. It is the beginning of the week, and while today wasn't college specifically, I wanted to catch up on my assignments, and that's all I've been doing all day. So now that it is evening and I finally have the time to come in and speak, here I am to kind of speak about our first book that I went ahead and finished in this video, which is called, I think it's the Maddest Obsession. I don't know, the titles are so confusing, but it is that book, is the second one in the Maid series. And if you watched my reading for 24 hours video from a couple of weeks ago, I read the first one in that vlog. Didn't necessarily have a good time with it, but the way these characters were set up and introduced in that book, I couldn't wait to get to this because their dynamic itself was like chef's kiss 5-star for me, which is why I picked it up here. However, we have been a little let down because it wasn't. So now into a quick premise. We follow this man called Christian, who's like a federal agent, but he comes with his own dark like backstory and stuff because he was actually born in Russia, and I think when he was like a teenager or something, he was arrested and he spent like his early youth in jail. So after he like cleaned up his act and left and came to the US, he's now working as a federal agent, but he still has like darker aspects to his element, which makes like these mafia families and whatnot want to recruit him and put him in their pocket, except he is said to be like a cold-blooded killer, a very heartless man, someone who wouldn't blink before like actually ending shit and whatnot for other people. And he also works as like a free agent, so he's really hard to like get into their pockets and stuff, and he's definitely supposed to be like really dangerous and whatnot, and that's the way he's established. But because of everything with his past and the way, you know, you get explained it at some point in the book, he definitely has like OCD tendencies that kind of lead him to want his life to be as per a specific like plan and format because of the kind of hardships he faced when he was younger, and he just needs to know that the pattern he wants established is being followed. But now introduce our FMC. She's called Gianna. She's actually part of Nico's family from the first book and whatnot, so she's definitely on the mafia side. And she, if you were to define a sparkly mess throw up, that would probably be her. And so she's the complete opposite of all his like straight-laced, not in the legal side of things, in the way he wants stuff, those sort of tendencies, because she is a complete mess. She's a walking disaster, but for some reason every time they clash and they come into contact, there's these feelings that start getting involved. There's quite a dynamic that's established. You get to watch some of their chemistry and it's really fun, but then in the long run they can't really do anything much of it because she's already been married 2 times and she's part of the mafia. And while he is like a dirty federal agent that is now starting to work with that mafia family, it's still kind of frowned upon for them to like get together and, you know, start a relationship, kind of go from there, which is why they're keeping things behind closed doors. And this one specifically, it was better than the first book, don't get me wrong. The first one was horrendous, but I didn't necessarily enjoy this one to the fullest because of the fact that their connection starts off very physical. I mean, this man literally has to go get therapy for her sake and whatnot from the very beginning, since he saw her, because he's obsessed with her in the very like attracted in the sort of physical lusty sense. And going off of that shoot, it only starts to get emotional towards the very end when the book was literally ending, because I was reading and I finally hit the epilogue and I kept continuing my pages, and then it ends off at this certain bit that I turn the page, see the acknowledgements, and I'm just like, wait a second, this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because it ends off in this very like brief cutoff. And I do wish that the kind of events that you got towards the end of the book came towards the middle, so you could actually get more time to grapple with them and get more emotional connect, because the character development was definitely established towards the end. But apart from that, it was a fun book to go along with, not just because of the fact that their banter was like funny and she's genuinely the most hilarious character I've read about, but because I definitely did like watching like a few elements of them come together. Not the whole thing overall, but it was like a fun, I don't know, like a palate cleanser sort of book, which I probably won't remember in the long run, but it was still fun to go along with. And maybe this is a sign that I should just stick to my regular romances that I enjoy, because this wasn't the best. It definitely did still feel like a sequence of like romance scenes thrown all together. There were no politics or anything about the world, but I still liked going along with it, and I still think I'm going to continue the series even though it's kind of mid. And so here we are. This one I'm going to give like 3 stars because it wasn't a bad time, but it definitely was something. And if you want to read it, you should definitely like look up trigger warnings before you get into it, because your mental health always comes first, which is why here we are. I'm done with this book at this point. And you know, happy I am, because this definitely wasn't 5, so we have to keep reading until we hit that 5 stars, but here we are anyway. Now my plan is to actually go back to that audiobook that I was speaking about. I'm not going to tell you which one yet, but it's like a fantasy audiobook, and I'll give you more of like context when I come in next to update, because I have listened to quite a decent bit of it, and I definitely do believe that if I lock in today evening as I finish like work off, I think I can finish it. But my goal right now is to go back to it and kind of continue listening from where I stopped off in the morning and whatnot, because I did go ahead and finish part 1 of the graphic audio of it after I finished my nails yesterday night. I did listen to quite a bit of it sped up, but then this morning, as I have gone ahead and continued, I have been having a good time. I'm a little conflicted. I need to like see it through before I give you final thoughts, which is why that's what I'm gonna go do right now. That's what probably is gonna continue happening, and I'll see you guys in a bit once that's done. But that's basically the plan for the rest of the night, and this one I have a good feeling on if the ending really gets me, because then who knows, we might just end the video there, but we'll have to see. You guys should just pray for me and keep your fingers crossed. But now I'll see you all directly once that's done, and I think it'll probably be after dinner at this point, because there is a little bit left and I still have some work to get through with. But I'll just go keep reading, keep listening, and I'll see you guys in a bit once I do have things to say. So bye. Hi guys, so it's update time basically since the last time I came in. Again, I don't know what it is with me underestimating how far I am into books and how fast I listen to them, because keep in mind I was listening to the next one sped up, finished it as well. This is crazy, we're on such a roll now, but basically the next audiobook is done. I'll get to it in a second. The video is gonna keep going. I don't know why I hype myself up and then I always end up with such like disappointed expectations, because this again was not 5 stars, but I'm done with it now anyway, so I came in to speak. But before anything, since the last time I came in and spoke, I did go ahead, finish some of my assignments out, had to go down, have dinner and whatnot. It's much later in the night, as you can probably tell, but you know, now I locked in and I was like working on a bunch of stickers, because if you haven't watched like a vlog of mine specifically from a couple years ago, I don't know which one specifically it was, I figured out how you can make stickers back in that video, and you know, bought like a bunch of prints and stuff to make my own, and I never got back to it. So I've been doing that recently because my little sister's like getting into journaling now, and she's been borrowing some of my stickers, so I want to add back to my collection. And you know, I was just working on making some stickers, doing all of that, and my audiobook ran out. So I will get back to crafty time in a bit, because that's like my only like free time in the day, which means that's gonna happen soon. But until it does, I was listening to the book and it's done at this point. And I did go ahead and get this Harry sticker that I want to attach to this like clear phone case that I've got for my phone, but because my phone's like an older model and this doesn't look great just by itself, I can't like buy online inserts, which means now after I'm done speaking to you, I'm just gonna go back to probably listening to something and continue working on this. But the goal is now to kind of make like an insert, so I have like a cute Valentine's case until then. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing, and until I do all of that, as I was working on, you know, the stickers and the assignments and whatnot, in the middle I have gone ahead and finished listening to both parts of the graphic audiobook of this book called The Book of Azrael. And this one, firstly, I need to thank the publishers, because it was actually sent to me, the graphic audio, around the time it came out. I haven't gotten to it yet, but now that I did, I'm happy that I have, because I actually figured picking this up should be smart for this video specifically, because if you've watched the rereads I've done specifically of other fantasy books, so like Fourth Wing and Damoff, I reread them on the graphic audio sort of format, and I always ended up giving those formats as well 5 stars, because for some reason it's just so amazing listening to a book kind of taking place in the form of like a movie in your head, because there's like actual sound effects put in the audiobook as it's happening in the book. Say for example, because it's like a fantasy book, there'll be like war scenes and stuff, so you can actually hear like the swords clanging and like a battle happening as you're listening to it, and it helps visualize. And so it's like great for the ears and whatnot. And thanks to that, I figured because I have this, it's been sent to me, might as well pick it up and maybe it'll be 5 stars. It wasn't looking back, but you know, it was still a fun one to pick up. And now story time for this one specifically. So there's this world we follow, and basically a few centuries ago it kind of came to ruins and whatnot, because there was like a god versus monsters war that kind of ended that world specifically. And so now you actually follow this man called Liam. He used to be called Sam Keel back in the day, but now he's like going by Liam and stuff, and he is one of the gods that was kind of responsible for the war. So he's still living on the sort of deserted remains of the planet, because he still regrets what happened, and he still misses like his hometown, his home country and whatnot, because it's literally perished. He's basically the main love interest of the book. The female love interest on the other side, she, during the war and whatnot, many centuries ago, she was left to die on these lands and whatnot. Her sister was losing her life, and so in like a desperate, I guess like plea to bargain and whatnot, she makes a deal with the guy on the other side, so one of the monsters. Liam is a god. She makes a deal with the monsters to kind of help bring her sister back to life, kind of resurrect her. And the middle of everything else, now because she made that deal, she's forced into servitude with these guys. So they convert Diana into the monster that they are, so she can kind of serve their ranks. And now fast forward to modern day, she is one of the most feared monsters on their side, and she actually finds out from the man she made that deal with, Caden, so he's like the head of the monsters on their side and whatnot, that there's this book that's like an unrecovered like relic from those war days and whatnot called the Book of Azrael, so what we're looking for essentially, that he thinks he may have found and whatnot, and he needs access to because it has like all sorts of secrets and whatnot for them to finally get like the upper hand on everything. Except as she starts hunting down this book, she kind of comes into contact with Liam the god, because he has to come back to also find that book because it has like secrets that he can't let get into anyone else's hands, especially the wrong ones. And as they come into contact, Diana decides that she's gonna betray Caden for her sister's safety and for the good of the world, work on Liam's side. Except there's like a lot of like animosity there because they've always been enemies since the first day, because they are on opposite sides and whatnot. Except as they go along on all these side quests and whatnot to recover the book, they start to realize that maybe they aren't so different after all, because she has like her own traumas, he has his own from especially like planet and stuff that happened and whatnot. And so they start falling for each other, but again nothing can come of it because she was literally made to kill and destroy and he was made of light. And again, opposite ends of the spectrum. It's really interesting, but overall I feel like if I were to explain too much to you, it would be a dead giveaway, which is why I'm trying to stay very vague on what the story is actually about. And so yeah, here we are now. I finished the first part of the graphic audiobook because it's divided into two yesterday night as I was doing all of this, and then this morning since I've been working, now finished the second one because again it was sped up. And all I'll say is I'm happy I did listen on this format specifically, because if I were to actually read this, it definitely flew by on this format, but if I read it on Kindle or like the actual physical book, it would have taken me a million years to get through, because I definitely do feel like the fantasy element of this was kind of lacking. It's like an urban fantasy, so it kind of takes place in our world, which is really jarring because they have like all these powers, and so they're trying to integrate, but at the same time for me it feels really weird because I can already like pick out like a couple fantasy loopholes in that sense. And that was kind of disconcerting because there's this one bit wherein they can literally teleport, but they're still going and trying to hunt for like human passports. And there's this other wherein instead of building their army ranks like Caden, the enemy and whatnot, is doing, they end up sitting down and waiting on their asses for an entire month to get like permission to visit like a different realm, which is so funny to me because some things genuinely didn't make sense in this. Otherwise, if you go with the vibes of this book, this definitely was fun to read, and if you ignore like the plot holes and stuff, it was a good book. It's just the fantasy definitely prolonged it longer than it should have been, which is why I'm now unsure about what I want to rate it. Because the romantasy, don't get me wrong, I loved it so much. I thought it was so funny and sweet, and the way she's such like an headstrong character, but they still work for each other and they're perfect. And the banter and the sort of chemistry that's established, this was like 5-star in that aspect. I truly had the best time. It's just the fantasy definitely dragged it down for me, and here we are. Their connection though definitely starts off like an emotional one, and the way it goes, truly this is the kind of romance I look for in romance books, which means I should probably just immerse myself back into fantasy because they always do the romance right, which is why here we are at this point. I definitely do wish the fantasy, like I said, was sped up in this and made a little more sense. And the whole thing with the Book of Azrael and stuff, you only start truly immersing yourself into it after the random side quests and stuff towards the very end of it just now, and it definitely does end off on like a cliffhanger. But now I'm unsure if I want to continue the series because it took so long otherwise, which means you all really need to convince me and let me know if the second one's worth it, because the way it ends off, we might be getting like a villain arc. It's kind of crazy. I would like to see it. It really just depends if it holds my like interest and stuff, and I might have to when the graphic audio of that comes out, because only then will I be able to keep up. But otherwise it was fun to go along with. It definitely does take a little bit to set up the story though, like the first 30% odd, because that definitely did feel a little boring, which is why I think I'm gonna give this like 3.5 stars. It was a good time, don't get me wrong. It's just the fantasy really dragged it down. Again, I do wish we got like other aspects and stuff, because the whole thing with the fantasy as well, the cycle, it felt very repetitive. I feel like it was going in circles and the same thing was going on repeat on and on again like a broken tape recorder. And so here we are. Another thing I didn't enjoy, because it's all hitting me at once now, is the fact that her sister just felt so whiny to me. And so I get it, she kind of saved her sister and made all these sacrifices for her, but the way it was done, that was another thing I couldn't get behind, and that really pissed me off. But here we are anyway. I'm done now. I don't have to complain about it anymore, and this wasn't 5 stars, clearly 3.5. So moving on, I'm gonna go pick up our next book. I don't know how much reading I'll be getting in tonight because I do want to work on my stickers, but I'm not sure if I want to listen to more audio because I'm actually tired of having like headphones plugged in the entire entire time, which means we'll just have to see. But hopefully my next read will be 5 stars, because at this point I'm literally aching for one. So maybe I'll pick something on Kindle that I think will be like a deeper emotional book. Who knows? Do my research on booktube, see what everyone else is starting to love these days, and pick something like that, because clearly my own picks aren't working at the moment. But yeah, we'll just have to see what I end up doing. I do have college tomorrow though, and I will probably be going with my best friend, which means I don't think I'll be listening to any more audiobook on the commute and whatnot, because I'll be busy talking and stuff, which means I don't know when I'll be coming in next with like updates on the next book. But hopefully the next one I do start ends up being a banger, because so far I am being let down, especially from the high pedestal I've been establishing over all these amazing books that I've been seeing amazing things of online that don't actually turn out the way I wish they turned out, which means at this point my standards are through the sky. I need something that kind of gives me that, and let's hope that the next one will be it. So we just have to see. But yeah, I don't think I'll be picking up like a book talk rec anytime soon, because I have been let down a couple times and I'm starting to grow sour. So we'll see what I end up doing, but I'll update you guys now directly tomorrow, because I do have to go finish a couple things off before I go to bed now, because it's late, which means that's it. Bye. Okay guys, I've come in for like a mini quick update, because I haven't finished any book at this point, but I do have a couple things to say. Firstly being, I know I said I was going to like college yesterday and stuff. I did end up going. It has been a couple days since basically I went, and I said that to you in my last update, because I haven't had the time to come and sit down and record and whatnot. But the thing is, I had like a morning class and an afternoon class, and my friend who was supposed to come with me, her morning one got cancelled, so she didn't end up coming with me because I went by myself. I ended up starting one book, and then while coming back, because we did have plans together to like do other things and whatnot, we did end up coming back together, but then also kind of waiting for her classes to get over. I was hanging out with a bunch of people, I was reading stuff on my phone meanwhile, so I started our other book, and basically in the middle of everything else, I didn't expect to, but I have 2 books going at the moment, which is not bad considering the fact that I easily used to go up to like 10 back in the day. It's just for the sake of clarity of this video, I won't confuse you too much. It's just I started 2 books, neither of them feels like a 5-star. It's just funny coming back and echoing my old statement saying that I probably won't choose a book talk rec, because both of them are really popular. At least one of them is really popular at the moment on book talk, and the other is like a book talk classic. But here we are anyway. I did not do a lot of reading since I came back home yesterday from college, but today, because again, no college, I was working on like assignments and doing all these other things, and I've been listening and reading and going in back and forth between the 2 of them, because I have one audiobook, so it's The Invisible Life of Addie, LaRue, and I have one on Kindle called The Bright Years. The Invisible Life, I think I have like about 2 hours left sped up on audiobook, and the other one, The Bright Years, I think I just reached like 60% or something like that, which is not bad considering the fact that it's a really short book overall. I think it's like under 300 pages or something like that. But the thing is, neither of them I'm enjoying at the moment. They both feel extremely long, and I feel like with the way they're advertised online, I was promised more emotion coming out of me for either books. It's just I feel indifferent at the moment. So I'm gonna go keep reading, because there were like perspective switches in both of the books at the moment, at least, that I'm starting to enjoy right now. And so my goal is, because I want to break from all my work and stuff, I want to go back to finishing up my stickers, because I'm still making them. They take so long to cut and finish off, and I want to go ahead and at least work on finishing out both of them tonight. So I'll be listening to our audiobook and stuff as I'm making the stickers, and then before bed tonight on Kindle and whatnot, I'll lock in for a couple hours and hopefully finish The Bright Years as well, because it's really going quick, and we'll see how that happens. But basically at the moment, the update is to come in to say it is a Thursday. I'm still reading. I still haven't found my 5-star yet, which is kind of scaring me, because if I were to officially stop reading for this video before I would start editing and post it, it would be on Saturday, which means we only have a couple days left, even if I do end up finishing these 2 tonight and don't find a 5-star, which it doesn't look like I will out of either of them, which means we have to buck up. I really have to get in some more books tomorrow and day after and pray that either of them turns out to be a 5-star, because so far the experience isn't great, which means I'll come back in to give you official updates once I have either of the books done. It's just neither of them are hitting at the moment, which is really sad, and I don't know what to say. Maybe we aren't gonna find a 5-star in this week, which again, it's kind of scary because I really wanted to, so we have something fun to talk about in the video rather than my epic misses of books. But we'll just have to see anyway. Again, subjective opinions, it's no one's fault really. Just have to keep reading to see what sticks with me, for me as a reader personally, which means I'm just gonna go back to it and hopefully get these 2 done tonight so I can give you more updates whenever I come in next about them. But that's the plan for now. I'm gonna go back, continue my reading, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye. Hi guys, so it's now the next evening. It is a Friday and I've gone ahead and finished the last couple books that we were speaking on about yesterday or something like that. I did go ahead and start one more, but now I'm not sure if that's going to be like the final book for the video, so we'll get to that in a second. But to come in and kind of update on the previous progress and whatnot, I finished the first book that I was speaking about, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and the other one, but first we'll discuss this and then we'll move on to that. I ended up listening to the rest of the audiobook that I was left and finished it yesterday night as I was like making my stickers, and all I'm going to say is it requires so much cutting. I was literally cutting for hours on end to the point where the scissor literally cut into my flesh and it hurts, to the point where now I don't think I'll ever make stickers like at home again. I'm just gonna buy them and make my life easy. But because of how time consuming they were, I ended up finishing this book. And basically, for like a quick premise, because don't read too much of the synopsis going into the book, go in with like this very vague expectation of what's going on, otherwise you will probably spoil the entire thing for yourself, and it's really long. So imagine like spoiling all like 450 pages of it. That would be messed up. But essentially, this one specifically, we follow this girl called Addie LaRue. She's like a girl in the 1700s in France and whatever, and because of the way women were treated back in the day, especially during that time period, her family is like marrying her off to this one man she does not want to marry. And so the night of her like wedding day and stuff, she kind of runs away instead of going to the church. She ends up in the forest, and she has this belief she kind of took from her next door neighbor, who everyone thinks is mad because she's like unmarried again at that point in time, that if she prays hard enough to a god and she strikes up a bargain when she's sacrificing something, they will grant her wish. So she goes to the forest kind of praying to be liberated from being stuck in like a pointless marriage she doesn't want to be part of, especially because her biggest fear is like living a life where she doesn't leave a mark, because if she gets into one of these marriages, the outcome's going to be the same as every single village girl's ever had. She's going to have to subside before like her husband and stuff, and probably have his children at some point, look after them, and then be buried under the soil and whatnot when she dies. And so she wants something more than that for herself, which is not wrong obviously. At that point no one really allows it, and so that's why, like I said, she ran away to the forest. She's praying to the gods. Except another thing that's been established early on in the story is that you should pray to gods, definitely. You should make whatever bargains and stuff. You should definitely sacrifice so that your wishes can be granted. It's just you do not pray to a god who answers after dark, because that is not a god. Except she doesn't really have like a clue of the time, because she's just in this desperate frantic hurry to kind of get out of the situation she's in, because it's really supposed to be like quick. She's panicking because otherwise they'll like drag her away and force her into getting married. People are already coming out searching for her and stuff. So she quickly like desperately makes this bargain with this god supposedly who appears, because she wants to live a life untethered to anyone. Except as it turns out, she ended up making a bargain with like the little devil and stuff, and when she asked to be untethered, he found a loophole in it, in the sense that if you're untethered to people, it means you don't have any connection to them. And so the way it works is that anywhere she goes now, people will not remember her. It literally becomes the invisible life of Addie LaRue, because every time they see her, they interact with her, it's fine, but as soon as they like turn her back on her, it's like out of sight, out of mind and whatnot. Close a different door, they forget about her. So basically now she's not stuck to anyone, she's not constricted to anyone, because they cannot remember her, and so she can kind of live out her life the way she wants. Except now her whole point of doing this was so she can leave a mark on the world and get to see everything she probably could not have if she was like stuck in that marriage. And when she's extremely young, and the way the deal works, it'll keep her preserved in good health and stuff all the time. It's just this one little thing that comes into play. So now you watch her over the span of like 300 something years go about in like history, trying to like make her mark on like art and like all these other beautiful creations and like inventions and stuff, and you get to see so much, to the point where now you're just like wondering, where is this story gonna go? And so one day, as she's following the monotony of like getting her mark done on whatever way she can, trying to survive, just see the world the way she can, she ends up running into this boy in the bookstore, and he says the magical words no one's ever said for the past 300 years. I remember you. And so now you're trying to figure out how that comes into play. And all I'll say is this was really interesting, the book. I feel like definitely my expectations were higher than they should have been, considering the way everyone like raves about it, because I was in the minority that did not like this. Do not get me wrong, the writing style is amazing. It's so beautiful. I can't wait to read more by this author. It's like poetic and almost like flowery in a non-flowery way, wherein it's just written so beautiful, especially the kind of twists that come and why these two found each other and everything else with it. But I definitely feel like this was a big letdown down and the whole way that it was very much just tell rather than show. And so you get to like watch the author kind of describe the emotions you should be feeling rather than getting a hold on them yourself. And I feel like what added to that is the fact that this was in third person perspective, which means because of the way it's written, there's no like actual connection, I feel personally, established between me and the characters. And so it was a good story, it just wasn't something I was connected to. And because of that, it felt definitely longer than it should have been, because while it has like this overarching plot that's very vague in this sense, it definitely is on the side wherein it's very slice of life. Otherwise, you're trying to kind of watch her navigate through the years and stuff, kind of figure out what's going on. And apart from that, there's really not much else that goes on. So it's like monotonous, it does go in circles at points, it's very repetitive too. There's this like one thing that's mentioned like constantly all the time, that she has like 7 star-shaped freckles across her face, which again does not bother me. It's just certain things, the way they were repeated, they're coming and hitting me back in the face now, that they did not really make my read too enjoyable, to the point where I couldn't care less once it was done. I feel like the last few pages definitely could have been emotional. It's just they hit me in a oh my god, this is what's happening kind of way, because I did guess what would happen. It was kind of obvious right from the get-go, especially the way things were panning out. And so I'm just gonna say it, I'm not trying to disappoint anyone, but this wasn't my favorite read. It was very mid in my opinion, definitely not worth all the hype it's been getting. But at the same time, if it does hit for you, it could potentially be like one of the best books I've ever read because of the way it's written. It's just maybe I'm a cynic, or maybe I've read other better stuff that I did not find this holding up to the standard that I usually keep my other books on pedestals really high up in the sky, to the point where I think I'm gonna give this like 3.5 stars. Really depends on the time of editing, but not my favorite. I'm just happy it's done, and it definitely felt longer than it should have been, to the point where now I'm happy it's over and I don't have to go back to it, because I felt a slump coming on as I was reading it, because I feel like there was so much also space to like grow and expand on what's going on in the world, but she only ever shuffles back and forth between Europe and America, specifically like Paris and New York. And so also it feels like the cultural like traditions and history are very extremely curbed, and so not my favorite. Again, it just, like I said, it feels like it was going in circles, to the point where now, like I said, I'm happy I'm done. So this is the first book we ended up finishing. Next book I ended up finishing is called The Bright Years. I ended up reading this on Kindle, and again, it's also like a very literary fiction-esque sort of book like the previous one, which is why you should not know a lot going in, because these books, the entire plot I feel like is very much reliant on the fact that because it's literary fiction, you're supposed to connect with the characters, and if you connect, you kind of get to follow their plot. And then the plot twists that sort of come in are supposed to shock you in only that sense and whatnot. Otherwise, it's very much just a story of these people's lives. And so go into this next one as well very blind, because if you know too much, it's like a huge spoiler. But just know that it follows Ryan and Lillian. They're this couple and whatnot. When they're early on in their young love and whatnot, they are extremely in love with each other. But as they start to like grow and the years pass, and at some point they have like a baby girl, things start falling apart, because they both have their own like secrets they're withholding and stuff that's kind of threatening to break their marriage, to the point where now stuff happens. And then fast forward to the future, you follow their kid Georgette as she's trying to reconcile with her family roots and family history and stuff. And also keep in mind that there's someone who comes out from the past back into the picture, trying to figure out her family roots and traditions with her. And so that definitely helps her like go along with the journey of like grief and sorrow and all these other different things going on with the family, as she's trying to cope with other things and her life going on at the same time. And again, it's a really interesting book, but I definitely feel like this was not for my demographic specifically. I've been seeing it get like a lot of hype online these days, but I definitely feel like it's more for the sort of people who might have experienced this sort of thing in their life, so they find something they can actually relate to, or they are this sort of stage with emotional maturity wherein they get to actually watch the entire thing unfold and they get to see the complexity of the emotions. But to the point where I am in my life, I don't know, I just found this a bit boring. I'm so sorry. Maybe I need to be older to actually appreciate the nuances of this, but at the moment at least, it definitely wasn't for me, because again, I did not necessarily connect with the characters. We were given Lillian's point of view for the first like 40-ish%, and it was kind of boring to me because it felt like nothing was going on. Like, yeah, you got to see them in love and these other things, breaking it apart, and how you still love someone despite, the cracks and whatnot. It's just, I don't think I connected to the characters to care enough about it. And so after her perspective was over, I did enjoy the second and the third ones, but they were not enough to save the book for me, because I was already bored and checked out at that point. There is like a crazy plot twist that happens around the 50% mark though, that I did not see coming, and that part and the stuff that the themes surrounding that, they definitely got me. I was feeling like choked up and stuff. I didn't actually cry, And all I'll say is the writing of this was pretty. It reminded me a little bit of how Annabelle Monaghan writes, wherein it's like straight to the point and stuff, but it still cuts you. It's just, sometimes it did not really work for the story again in the overarching theme. And the whole thing wherein you have to like watch Ryan and Lillian in love, like yeah, I got to see a little bit of it, but at the same time I was like questioning things and like I didn't really see the whole story and whatnot. So it wasn't my favorite book, it wasn't my cup of tea, and that's again not the end of the world. Maybe I should just switch back to genres I know I love, because literary fiction does work for me sometimes, and I definitely do end up loving it. And some of my favorite books like Lessons in Chemistry are that genre. It's just they need to hit me in a certain way for it to feel that way, otherwise I usually end up getting bored and I just lose track of the story, because being connected to the characters to the point where the plot doesn't really matter, you're just there to kind of see their story unfurl, that generally doesn't happen for me. It needs to be really well done for that to work. And so again, this one, 3.5 stars. I will decide upon future notice when I'm editing, and until then, that's my final rating for this. But in the end, do not get me wrong, I still feel like a hypocrite, because as I say all these like profound things in my opinion about literary fiction, I still went ahead and picked up another literary fiction book, or at least that's what it feels like. This one's called The Names. I started listening, but then also I haven't got a lot of progress in, so I'll just tell you a little bit about what I know at the moment, and then I'll go back to the audiobook and tell you the plan for the rest of the video. But basically this one specifically, again, like I said, do not know too much going into it. It's just we follow this one mother who is taking her newborn baby to get his name registered at the office and whatnot, to kind of have his like birth certificate and everything as prepared legally. Except as that's happening, keep in mind her husband is this man called Gordon, and he has this like family tradition going on for the past few centuries, I don't really know at this point, wherein every single man in the family, so any male, has been named by the same name called Gordon. So he kind of expects his wife now to name their baby son Gordon as well, except she decides that's not the kind of life she wants to pursue for the kid. She's not really happy with the decision, and so this is where the timeline kind of splits into three, wherein she ends up choosing three different names. So in the first timeline, her daughter, so the baby's like older sister, ends up choosing a name for the baby, Bear. And then in the second timeline, she ends up choosing up for the baby, Julian. And in the third one, she ends up going with the pick Gordon anyway, because she has been suppressed at home and she doesn't really have the right to make her own decisions and whatnot. So she ends up going with what he says, despite the fact that she doesn't want to do it. And because the timeline splits, now you get to watch each timeline, wherein just because she chose the name, a name has so much impact to the point where it literally affects the course of their lives and whatnot. Because in the Bear timeline, there's something going on and they're happy, but in the Julian timeline things are not working out, and in the Gordon timeline it's even worse and whatnot. And so you get to watch how one simple decision like naming a kid could potentially change the trajectory of their life, and that's basically what goes on in this entire book. And I'll say this is like a fun fact that no one really knows, but when my little sister was born, my parents actually let me name her. So looking back on like what's going on in the book and stuff, and my memories from when I was a kid getting to name her, because that was like one of the best, I think, moments of my life, truly comes in like my top 5 easy. Definitely changes my perspective on things, because like, what do you mean I could have named her something different and something different would have come of the outcome? But at the same time, this doesn't really rely too much on the names at the moment, at least, because it's almost like the same situation except in 3 different versions of 3 different sequences that could unfurl. And if you want to keep reading it, definitely check trigger warnings, because it does cover like domestic abuse and stuff. But I'm interested to see where it keeps going. It definitely feels like a heavier emotional book, and sometimes all I need is an emotional book to be a 5-star. And so far I'm really enjoying it. I do want to see where the story goes, so I'm gonna go keep listening and see how this thing pans out, because at the moment at least it is fun enough that I want to see what happens next. I'm kind of curious, but at the same time, it really has to be great for me to actually end up giving it 5 stars. Like I said, all my 5 stars are literally God tier, which is why it really depends. But until then, I will continue reading this. I will have to see how things pan out, and hopefully I should be done tonight as I continue listening and whatnot, because there isn't a lot left. The audio, because audio is like really small, and because of the fact that I'm like 4xing my way through it, I should be done in like no time whatsoever. So here we are. We'll continue reading. The update I came in to give about like I don't want to keep saying the word update, but update on what's going on at the moment. One of my professors from college actually sent in like a whole list of new assignments that we're supposed to get done and submit by Tuesday next week. And the thing is, today is Friday, tomorrow is Saturday, Valentine's, and I already have plans. So originally I wasn't really gonna be able to read any book up until tomorrow because I have other things going on. I'll be going out and stuff. And so then fast forward to Sunday, which is the day I generally sit down and edit these videos. So now at this point, I know I'll be finishing the names in this video at least, and it really depends. Then after that will mean I have only until like Monday left to finish off the assignments, because like I said, submissions on Tuesday, which means tonight I'm thinking I might pull like a all-nighter of some sort, finish off at least a couple of those assignments so that I don't don't have too much workload on Monday, because I will record a different video then. It's just I don't want to pressurize myself into doing too much in a day, which means if I split the workload into tonight and Monday, because the submission, like I said, is on Tuesday and I can't squeeze it in over the weekend, then I will probably end up listening and I will definitely finish the names and maybe another book. But if I don't, and if I end up postponing everything to Monday, then you will see me read a bunch more books in next week's video. It really depends on the work. So I'm gonna go figure out my, I guess, schedule for the rest of tonight and whatnot, what I end up doing. But definitely will be finishing up our current read. It's just, let's pray and hope that I can get to another one, because if this is not 5 stars, that would be a really big disappointment of a video, and I want to try to at least find one. And even if we don't, I want to find a good, highly rated book, because at least the ones in this video don't feel like it at the moment. So I'm gonna see what I end up doing with my work, and I'll update you guys in a bit now, maybe in a couple of days when I have the time, once I do have this book done, and maybe progress on another one. Crossing my fingers, who knows. But yeah, that's about it. Pray for me that the next time I come in and speak, we have a 5 star, because if we don't, it's just kind of sad. But see you guys anyway in a bit. I will continue listening to my audiobook now, and hopefully, like I said, have good things to say about it when I come in next. Hi guys, and now it's time for the final update in this video, because I just finished the last book for it, and so I need to come in and give you my thoughts really quick, and then we can end it off. Not because I found a 5 star, I didn't, but because we have organically failed this video. I was not able to find a 5 star within the 1 week span, and the 1 week is now over, which is why here I am standing before you, or I guess sitting before you today to give you my final updates before I have to go edit this and then post it and whatnot. But the last time I came in to speak was a Friday. I don't know what delusional state of mind I was in, thinking I can finish a couple books since, because that very day I ended up working on a different assignment that actually needed brain power, so I couldn't listen to anything. And then right after that, yesterday was Saturday Valentine's, wasn't home the entire day, so I got basically zero reading in. And then fast forward to today was editing day. I did edit some of this video, not too much, and I was finishing the book off at the same time, which is why I don't know how I thought I'd finish 3 more books in the span of the last couple of days, because clearly that didn't happen. I was just barely able to finish the names, which is why here I am to update. But just this evening specifically, as I was listening and kind of finishing it out, I did end up making the phone case insert that I was speaking about earlier in the week that I wanted to do, and it turned out okay. I just wanted to show it to you because it looks like a fail to me. I might redo it once I have the time later. At the moment I don't, which is why I'm going to stick with it. But for now, I feel like the sticker kind of blends in with the background, so maybe next time I'll go with something lighter so it doesn't flash and you have more, I guess, space to shine for the sticker specifically, because it's Harry. But otherwise, yeah, it was a fun time to make, and now at least I have measurements for the inside of the way the insert should fit on the case, so it'll be easier the next time I do it. But that's the plan basically for next time. This is what I ended up doing this evening though, as I was listening and as I finished with the book as well. And so update time. I think again it was Friday specifically when I spoke about this for the first time, but I do believe I gave you all a summary then. So now we'll just jump into my thoughts, because really quick, if you don't remember, this is the book about the woman, the mother, who's getting her baby named, but she's not sure which name to pick, and so it splits into 3 timelines where she chooses 3 different names, and then you kind of watch each timeline with its own set of consequences and stuff, kind of showing you how a simple choice can lead to such a big change in someone's life trajectory. But not just that person specifically, in the whole surrounding cast of characters around them as well. And it's interesting to me because this one specifically did not necessarily feel like it was about the names per se, or the way it was built up in my head, at least by expectations, because obviously not correct to make all these big expectations from a book I've never read, and then once it doesn't hit that, kind of feel bad about it. But at the same time, I thought this would be different than the way it turned out, because here, if you want to read it, please check trigger warnings. Your mental health is very important, but actually follows domestic abuse. And so instead of the names kind of choosing the different paths and whatnot, it honestly felt like the way the main abuser in the household was getting triggered and whatnot, it was the husband in this case. The way his almost reactions and the way the story panned out in that sense was kind of leading into the 3 timeline separation. So it wasn't necessarily the names, which again, I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels weird to me to speak about, because I went in expecting something else, and it's not a bad thing, but it definitely did not give what I thought it would, and it was more about the abuse rather than what I thought wherein it would be names and something more lighthearted, which again, it's got heavier topics, proceed with caution. But apart from that specifically, I do definitely believe that this is a beautiful story, don't get me wrong. It's emotional and it's sad and it's heavy and it's tragic, but it was not for me. And it can coexist in the same timeline, a story being beautiful and amazing and like the best stuff I've read, but also not my favorite, simply because this does make sense the way it takes place. It does make sense the way it pans out. It's just the way I felt reading it was weird, because again, I've never had any first-hand experience with like domestic abuse and stuff. I'm very fortunate that I live in a household wherein, you know, I don't get to go through any of that or get to come into contact with something like that, which is why, you know, reading this, I don't want to say I'm really sheltered, but I think I am, because this was like my first time actually coming into contact with the kind of details that you were getting in this book. And so maybe it's because of that, and maybe it's because of the stage again in my life that I am at the moment. But as I read it, the author has obviously done like an incredible job making the characters feel so realistic, to the point where as I was reading, because it was my first time kind of figuring out, you know, stuff like, obviously I know this kind of stuff happens to like other people out there and other households and stuff. I'm lucky, and maybe other people aren't so much. But actually getting to watch it pan out in this book, it just felt wrong to be kind of reading it, because it feels like, again, realistic and someone's own personal matters that I felt like I was being the, I guess, outsider poking her nose into, which is why, I don't know, it honestly felt like, you know how sometimes when you like put a new shoe on and you get like a shoe bite on the back of your ankles, and you might put like a band-aid to cover it up, but then every time you still keep walking, even if it's like in another shoe and whatnot, it's still gonna chafe as you walk. That's what it felt like reading the book, because it doesn't bother me, do not get me wrong, it's not something I can relate to and stuff, but as I was reading it, it felt wrong getting to watch it happen to these people because of how realistic it happens. And it makes me feel sad for humans, because what do you mean it goes so bad? And obviously this is opening my eyes to the extent of what might be happening out there in the world, and it's obviously a great book to show you and kind of bring you out of the rock and whatnot. But at the same time, it just felt wrong to be reading about, because it's just tragic on tragic, and you know, maybe I'll be in a better space one day to like process this more emotionally, but at the moment at least it wasn't for me, simply because every time I went back to the story, I was like pushing it off, just because I did not want to see it through, because it was too heavy for me at the moment at least. And because the way the things would pan out, I just feel disgusted watching myself continue reading the book, simply because I feel like it was too heavy and personal of a matter for me to like digest and whatnot. And that's not a bad thing. It just goes to say the author's done like an incredible job doing it. It just wasn't for me, which is why long-winded review to say I'm gonna give this like 3 stars. Don't get me wrong, it was a great book, it just wasn't for me. Like I said, again, lots of factors coming in, partly because of my slump, partly because of the fact that it was Valentine's week, so I was like more invested in reading other things, and I definitely messed up on like the books I should have picked up for this week's video. And also the fact that I don't think I'm again emotionally mature for this sort of book at the moment, at least for me to actually process the nuances, which is why here I am. I finished it out, 3 stars, and it wasn't a bad book. Again, the author's done an incredible job on it, it just wasn't for me, which is why happy I'm done with it anyway, and here we are. One complaint I do have though is maybe because I wasn't able to connect to the characters and I felt that way. Maybe if you've loved it, obviously you'll have found it different and whatnot, your experience. But for me personally, as I was reading, there's 3 different like perspectives in it, following like 3 different lives that could have happened and whatnot with the names and stuff. And for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's because they were kind of similar in like the gist that was established, all 3 of them kind of blended into one at some point, and I was having a hard time separating like the details of each specific life, which obviously that goes to say I wasn't too well invested into the book. I wasn't too connected deeply with the characters to care enough about seeing the exact details of the story. But at the same time, I don't know, I wish there was like a better job done of like distinctions and stuff. Again, for me personally, because certain details of each story, I was like confusing it and like mixing up timelines, and at some point it did feel like a little monotonous. But otherwise, it's still a good book. And here we are anyway, I'm done at this point. Now we've reached the end of this video. I did not obviously find a 5-star in this video, but I'm still not giving up hope because it's very early on in the year. A couple weeks does not like equate to like a whole year in the standoff, and maybe at the end of the year, who knows, we'll have probably the most books I've ever given 5 stars at that point. So I'm not like putting out hope or anything, because I just know it's gonna happen in the next few weeks after things like slow down on college and whatnot. I know I'll be reading the next like Actor book to do like a full spoiler breakdown, and that's definitely gonna be 5 stars. So again, I know a 5-star is coming in the near future. Hopefully it'll be one that I'm not expecting to be 5 stars, one of those unexpected kinds, because that's the best feeling. But regardless of what it turns out to be, again, I'm not worried or anything, because it's gonna happen. So until it happens, I'm still not sad about the fact that this week was potentially just like 3 stars all over in terms of reading, and we did not find that 5 in this week, because it's not the end of the world. But here we are anyway. The conclusion of the video to say that if I personally were to find a 5-star within a week organically, it was a huge fail, because I am a picky reader and that just didn't work. But otherwise, I still had like a fun time reading some books that I normally would not gravitate toward, just in the hopes of finding a 5-star. And now it's just helping me cement further on what I know I personally love and enjoy in books, and what I know I will look forward to in my next 5 star. So it's still experience, and it still counts, and it's still a good old time overall, which is why here we are. We know that this video was a fail, and hopefully when I get to next week's video very soon, that one won't be, because I've got a few fun books planned for that, and who knows, we might just find a 5 star as early as next week when I get to those books, which is why the world is literally just an oyster you have to go ahead and see. I'm not trying to be a TED talk here right now, so I'll just cut it out to say here we are anyway. We've now reached the end of the video. We'll find my 5 stars soon. Pray for me. But until then, hope you guys had a fun time coming along with me in this week's video specifically. If you did, like, comment, share, subscribe. YouTube things, you know how to do them. And now I'll see you guys directly in next week's video very soon. And until then, take care, stay safe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and bye!